Hey, what's up, guys? It's Conor Matthews. I'm hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
Rumor has it you are now here in LA. So welcome to LA.
Thank you, thank you. It's been about 3 weeks now. Still getting settled in.
Okay.
Still don't have a car, so just been Ubering. Yeah, it's all good, but we're figuring it out.
Music is the focus, so you're good.
Focus. Yeah, yeah. And I love LA. I'm in North Hollywood in the Arts District, which is where all my friends are. I got a bunch of studios over there I use. All the dancers are over there, so it's been just super tight. Yeah.
That's awesome. And before we actually talk about the EP, like the other rumor was that you're a great dancer as well. So, talk to me about dancing and music and like why you kind of decided to go that route in life.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved dancing. Like, I never did it a lot growing up, but I've always admired people who are really, really good at it. Yeah. So, like, my favorite artists are, like, Bruno Mars, Usher, Justin Timberlake, Chris Brown. So it's, like, all my favorite artists are entertainers. And so I just kind of wanted to do that, too. I'm a good dancer. Like, don't get me wrong. I look up to people like Usher and Chris Brown because they're leagues, they're in like a whole nother universe. I just aspire to be like them. Right. But I got into it, man. I worked real hard at it. I had some really great mentors, and yeah, I think songs that you can move to is they've always been my favorite songs, and I just want to make people feel good, have a good time, and relate to it. And I think dancing's part of that. Like, I kind of look at dancing like if I'm doing a live show, I always think a live show is another part of the artistic process. Right. So, like, you're in the studio, like, you're singing, that's one part. Like, you're writing, that's one part. You're producing, that's one part. And, like, that's all stuff that I grew up doing, so it kind of comes natural. And then I was like, yo, I want to have a live show that when people show up, it's not just like they're listening to their favorite songs. It's like I want it to add to their experience of whatever they're experiencing in the music. So that's kind of what drove me to start dancing. Just seeing all my favorite artists do it, I would leave their shows and be like, I'd look at the songs differently because it's like you could see the amount of time and energy they put into the show just as much as the music, and I was like, that's what I want to do.
Now, in a sense, does it kind of make you, when you go into the studio, does it make you kind of think about the dances or dance moves that you could potentially do with the song when you're writing this material?
Definitely. I wouldn't say like when I'm writing it, it's not like the dancing is the first thing that I'm thinking of. It's always like I come from a songwriting background. I wrote songs for other people for 4 years before I started writing my own shit. Man. So I'm always coming at it from a song first angle, but especially when I'm diving into production and the beat and stuff, like, I want something that makes me want to move. And while I'm in the studio, if like I feel like a certain groove or something, like I'll take that to the dance studio and I'll work on it with my choreographer and I'll be like, yo, it feels like this or it feels like that. And sometimes I'll go back and edit the track so that, the danceability or whatever you want to call it is up.
Now, you mentioned you did writing before you actually started to do your own project. Like, I feel like when you're a writer first, I feel like coming into the game as the artist, I feel like it's a lot scarier than when you're the artist first. Yeah. Like, did you feel those kind of nerves when you decided to like kind of start pursuing music as you, the artist?
I don't think I did, man. I feel like I was always an artist in my heart. Like, when I was a kid, I used to dream about playing for thousands of people. Like, I'd have my little my cassette player, and when I was 4 or 5, and I was thinking about it. It was when
you guys are gonna have to Google that one.
Yeah, yeah. But when I moved to Nashville, it was almost like I was 18 at the time, and I was so overwhelmed with talent like around me that I was like, yo, this is. Like, these people are crazy talented. It almost like took my confidence away. So I was like, well, maybe if I could just be a songwriter. So I started writing songs, and people thought I was pretty good at it. Started writing with some of my idols out in Nashville, which was really, really amazing experience. But then, I just got hungry. I got hungry to do my own shit again. I was tired of writing other people's stories. Like, I wanted to write what was on my mind. And so when I started doing that, I took 1.5 years off of sessions. I just stayed in the studio, locked myself in there, like, working on my own shit. So by the time I came out as an artist, I have an identity, and like I knew, like, I was authentic to myself. Like I'd gone through like a self-discovery process of who I am, so that I could show people who I am through my music. And I just felt ready, man, immediately. It was like I thought I had songs that the world needed to hear, and like, I've always been a pretty talented singer, so it was like showcasing them wasn't no thing, and it was just like. It was a natural progression. Yeah. It was like I wrote songs for other people. That chapter of my life, it's never over. I love writing songs for other people. I still do it. But the next chapter was all about self-expression and getting my stories out there.
Yeah. And how freeing is it, like, finally, like, starting to write your material? Like, I'm sure, you know, you get the hang of it. Like, okay, this is a song for this artist or that artist, or I'm shopping it to another artist.
Yeah.
But then when it's your music, like, there's more emotion, there's more vulnerability coming out of
Yeah.
you. So, you know, the writing process or the creative process for Balloons EP, which is out now, you know, how different was that for you compared to like the previous stuff that you've been writing for other artists?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Balloons is actually, it's really the first project I got to dive in and explore all my influences in one project. So it was really awesome for me. I did it with all my homies. Like we did like 4 or 5 retreats from Colorado to Florida, LA, Nashville, Chicago. Like we wrote everywhere, just like trying to get inspired on shit. And yeah, it was really different because it was the first time I locked myself in a room with the same people for like months, pretty much. If you add all the weeks up together, it ended up being like 3 or 4 months of last year. And yeah, and like I vocal produce everything myself, and like I help produce it, and you know I got to share some like real stories, which was really great for me to just get that shit off my chest.
Yeah.
And I always tell people like Balloons for me, I always write in seasons, so whatever I'm experiencing in real life, it comes across in the music. So in the Balloons era, originally the project was called Man in the Moon, which is funny. It used to be like an album, and then we shortened it to an EP called it Balloons. But in the Balloons era, you know, everything felt like epic. It felt like, you know, I was falling in love, and I was having my heart broke, and, you know, I had dreams like that felt pretty unobtainable, and then seeing those dreams come true, or some of them at least. So everything had like a weight to it, and so I wanted to make something that sounded like that. I wanted to make something that sounded like it could fill up an arena, but with like emotion behind it and like personal stories. And so that's what I think we did. It was like everything feels massive on it. The stories are real to me, and people seem to be really reacting with them. Like I think you know, people generally experience similar stories, even if they look differently. Yeah. Like everyone knows the feeling of someone that you felt like you were supposed to be with but couldn't. And everyone knows like the wins of, you know, seeing something come true that you never thought was possible. And so that's what Balloons was for me. It was like self-discovery and really like diving into who I am as an artist. And yeah, the experience was just really incredible. It like catapulted me into like a very authentic lane, and I got to just show the world some really incredible songs.
Yeah, I loved how you even mentioned earlier that it's there's a lot of different sounds. There's a lot of different styles for this EP. Yeah. For me in particular, I was stuck on Anyone's But Mine. That was probably my favorite. Definitely on replay. But talk to me about like being able to put so many different emotions, so many different sounds in just 4 songs. Like I would love to hear that whole record. Like I you know, and I know that's hard. I know that's hard for like new artists to kind of release a record and have people listen to every single track. So, you know, how did you condense all those sounds and styles in 4 tracks?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. It was actually really, really hard. And I hope someday I can drop the whole thing, just whether it's in 2-3 years, I don't know. But yeah, I basically chose the 4 songs that I felt like showed the heart of the project, and like showed the diversity without making them sound too far off. And I tried to pick songs that gave people an idea of what I was going through at the time, like the goods and the bads. And also like gave them an idea of like how I can sing and the different vocal arrangements and just like my creativity in general. So I just chose the 4 songs that best showcased that. And that's ultimately how I did it, because I was having a hard time choosing like which song do I like better. You know what I mean? It's like I wrote like 90 songs for it. So I wrote 90 songs. We finished 15 of them, and then I chose 4 of them to release. And so the 15 we had, in my opinion, like I loved almost every single one of them, if not every one of them. So it was less about like which song's better, and it was more about which songs like most accurately portray the season of life that I was going through at the time.
Talk to me about that song in particular, Anyone's But Mine. Because like I said, like I heard the EP the first time, but then before I restarted the EP, I went straight to that song one more time.
I love that.
And then I went to listen to the whole EP again. But like, talk to me about this one, because this one's the one that is also different from the whole EP.
So Anyone's But Mine is a story. You know, I was on a trip, and I was with this girl, and it was like one of those feelings where like it was nighttime. We were walking on the boardwalk. you know, by the ocean. There was like a band playing in the background, just kind of like that perfect vibe, like a dream, almost like a dream. It felt like a movie, man. And I remember thinking like, so the lyric in Anyone's But Mine is like, I don't see how you could be anyone's but mine. And that's literally like the feeling I had at the time. I was like, yo, this feels so perfect. Like, this feels like forever. I can't imagine leaving, even though I knew I had to because I was visiting somewhere. I was like, I can't imagine leaving and having you be anyone else's. It was like, this feels so right. Like, I couldn't see it with someone else. And so like, that was the idea for the song. And then I just basically lyrically, I filled in the gaps. It was like everything in the verses is like what happened. It was like, you know, you got these feelings that you can't hide. The sting of summer with your skin on mine because she was sunburned. It was like this whole vibe. Seeing diamonds in your green eyes, and I hate to see you cry, you know, because we had to split up. We had to leave. And even the second verse gets more specific. It's like, you know, dancing with your shoes off, like stuff like that. It's like just things that happened. I just put it in the song. Right. And then musically, you know, so we're going back to what I said earlier. It's like this whole epic. It was like, you know, that kind of feeling like you're supposed to be with someone, but you can't. Like, it's like a bittersweet, you know? It's like you feel like you found something special, but you can't hold on to it. Right. So it's like a rip your heart out kind of like love. And so sonically, I wanted to portray that in like a big kind of like longing emotion, and then put some fucking boy band melodies behind it because I loved like NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Boyz II Men. Like I was a massive fan when I was a kid. Right. So yeah, it's kind of how it came together. And then I love vocal production, so all like the vocal pads and shit that you hear, like I just wanted to like incorporate some of those influences, and I feel like it really came together cool.
Now, I mean, what was that team behind it? Was it just you in the studio by yourself, like kind of producing everything, or did you have like another team, like a full blown team with you? Because that song alone is like so like it's epic. It's you know like if it's like this on you know when you listen to it on Spotify or wherever you guys listen to your music, like I can only imagine like what that's gonna be like. When you actually perform it live. Yeah, like I feel like you can't just do an acoustic version of it, right?
You can't, man. You can't. And that was like I like you said that because that's exactly like my thought behind the whole record was like I wanted something that felt like it filled up. You know, while we were making it, we called it like arena music. You know, it was like stadium music. It feels like you should be like almost in the nosebleeds listening to it because it's so massive.
But at the same time, like there was sprinkles of time throughout the song where I felt like more of a dream pop type of like emotion.
100%. And that's where like the storytelling, like I've got a storytelling background, obviously coming from Nashville and Chicago. Like, so like telling stories is equally as important to me as the actual music itself. And yeah, to answer your question, I did have a team, an incredible team, just like the homies that I came up with from back when I started. When I first started becoming an artist, I found these really, really talented producers that were also coming up, and you know, they were great enough to like really believe in me, and so like they sacrificed months of their year just working on my shit, which I'll always be grateful for. And yeah, we kind of went through the process together, like I said, like different locations, like writing it, producing it, and then I'd go back and like track the vocals in my room or whatever, and I'd send it to them, and then I'd meet them out in LA and we'd keep producing it. Like it was a whole process, man. It was truly like it was just truly like an amazing eye-opening process. Like I said, it was the first time I got to do something like that. Usually it's like you go to a session and oh, this song's kind of cool. Go to another session. Oh, this time's kind of cool. Like this time I got to just get the same guys in the room every time for months of the year and just make this whole project. And like, I think, you know, I think it shows in the way it's like cohesive and just, yeah, it's a body of work.
Yeah. And it's cool because like, you know, there's so many artists that record in New York, and then they record at the same time. They record in London, and then they record up north, and so on. Like, and you can tell, you know, you can hear that different sound from those different locations, those different studios, the different production that they use. But I feel like with you, it's like because you have that same crew traveling around to kind of record, like you guys are growing together. So that's kind of a cool vibe.
Yeah, man. It was honestly super cool. Like number one, being able to do it with your friends is just like something that you should never take for granted because it's so rare you get to like create something really special with people that you actually like. Yeah. So I'm super grateful for that. And then number two, making all these songs in different locations, like it changed the way the songs came about, you know? Yeah, it's like when you travel, I'm downloading everything all the time. Like if I'm in Italy, like I'm fucking downloading that culture and like I'm getting inspired even if I'm not mentally thinking of it. If I'm in New York, like New York's got an energy. It's got like like a hustle bustle to it that like you can't replicate if you were in LA. But when you're in LA, you got a whole nother energy, you know? And Chicago was probably my favorite. That was like my favorite energy. I'm from Chicago, so I could be biased, but like, dude, there's something so special about that city and like the culture there and just the vibes that are kind of like around it's where we wrote a lot of it. That in Florida, which Florida gave like this chill, like, you know, it just kind of gave us space to breathe, which was awesome. And so, yeah, all that shit, like from being able to make it with my friends and be honest with each other, because that's something that like friends have the capability of doing, to like experiencing all those different, you know, vibes with them and getting to create it. And so a lot of times we weren't even in a studio. We were just like in a house with like a microphone and a laptop. No pressure, like didn't have all the bells and whistles, but like we just had like our minds and our laptops and like a piano, and that was all we needed. So
That's it, because this is just the beginning. Like I can't wait to see what else you got cooking up.
yeah,
Like,
I'm excited, man. I'm excited. We've been working on a lot of stuff. I'm really excited for, you know, we got the next season of Life, like post Balloons Life equals post Balloons music, and it sounds like it's like an evolution, man. We got stuff coming in the spring and the summer and the fall. Like we're queued up for sure. So
that's it.
yeah.
Well, congratulations with the EP, man. Like, you definitely have a fan in me. So you guys be sure to check out Conor Matthews debut EP, right?
Debut EP.
Technically,
man.
that's what it is. Debut
Yeah.
EP Balloons is out now, and thanks for watching here on From Real Life.